Call the meeting to order. The Wilmington City Council. I'd like to welcome all those who are with us here this evening, all those who are watching us at home. Thank you for taking an interest in your government. At this time, I'd like to call on Sergeant Ron Evans of our Wilmington Police Department. If you'll please come forward and give our invocation. If everyone will stand and remain standing afterwards for the Pledge of Allegiance. Sergeant, welcome.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you to say thank you. Thank you for this day. Thank you for everything that you have done in our lives and everything that you're doing, everything that you are going to do. We thank you for your continued grace and your continued mercy that you bestow upon us day in and day out. We ask that you continue to guide the minds and the heart of this council as they prepare to make decisions that will ultimately be beneficial to the citizens of Wilmington. And we thank you for every citizen of this city. In your Son's precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have several presentations this evening. First presentation is a proclamation naming May 2024 as Bicycle Awareness Month, and at this time I'd like to recognize Carlene Ellis-Matalas, who's the Go Coast Committee, Steve Zinder, who's the Vice Chair of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, Carolyn Gaggia, who is WMPO Associate Transportation Planner. If they'll meet me at the front. City of Wilmington, North Carolina proclamation reads, whereas the month of May is observed as National Bike Month and Wilmington City Council is committed to the promotion of safe bicycling for both transportation and recreation, whereas on average 52 crashes involving bicyclists occur annually in the City of Wilmington, which underscores the importance of ensuring driver awareness and bicyclist safety education in addition to safe facilities for bicycling to prevent crashes. And whereas the City of Wilmington is committed to promoting the safe use of bicycles on city streets and trails, those bicycle facilities such as the Gary Shale Cross City Trail, the River to Sea Bikeway, the Ann Street Bicycle Boulevard, bike lanes, intersection improvements, and the bicycle facilities included in the city's 2014 transportation bond projects. And whereas the City of Wilmington supports education about bicycle safety through the Wilmington Urban Area Metropolitan Planning Organizations, better known as the WMPO, to be a looker campaign which encourages children and adults to operate their bicycles in a safe manner and educates drivers on how to share the road with bicyclists. And whereas the City of Wilmington has been designated as a bicycle-friendly community by the League of American Bicyclists since 2020 and continues to make improvements to benefit the bicycling community. Now, therefore, the Wilmington City Council proclaims May as Bicycle Awareness Month and will continue to promote safe cycling opportunities for Wilmington citizens. And I do appreciate all of the citizens that have been part of these committees, the WMPO, the Department of Transportation, and our own engineering and transportation coordinators in making biking a priority for our community. So at this time, I'd like to pass on the microphone.
Thank you, Mayor Sappho. As the Vice Chairman of the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee for the WMPO, we thank the Wilmington City Council for this proclamation for Bicycle Awareness Month. Anybody that gets to be aware of bicyclists on the road and makes us a safer community, makes it a better place for all of us to live. So we thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Next proclamation is proclamation on May 24th is Garden of Wildlife Month, and I'd like to recognize Ms. Mary Smith and members of the Cape Fear Garden Club, if they'll please come forward. Everybody. City of Wilmington, North Carolina proclamation reads, whereas the City of Wilmington recognizes that human health ultimately depends on well-functioning ecosystems and that biodiverse regions can better support food productions, healthy soil and air quality, and can foster healthy connections between humans and wildlife. And whereas the City of Wilmington celebrates local wildlife and wild places with almost 70 city parks, including Greenfield Lake, which was established in 1925. And whereas the City of Wilmington is working to build a healthy, sustainable, and wildlife-friendly community that brings the many benefits of nature to all corners of our community, such as Halliburton Park, with the nature and birding programs to enrich the community. And whereas the Garden for Wildlife Month is a national initiative of the National Wildlife Federation that empowers Americans to support local wildlife like birds and pollinators by planting native plants in their gardens and throughout the community to help restore and connect habitat and enriches the lives of our citizens. And whereas the City of Wilmington will continue to support local efforts that protect, restore, and conserve habitat and vital environmental resources, as well as foster a greater connection between residents and wildlife. Now, therefore, I, Bill Saffa, on behalf of the entire Wilmington City Council, do hereby proclaim May Garden for Wildlife Month in Wilmington, North Carolina, and encourage all residents to plant native plants and participate in community activities that support and celebrate healthy, sustainable, wildlife-friendly communities. And I can't thank you, ladies, enough for all of the great work that you do in our community to make this the community and the beautiful place that it is. So I thank you very much for that. At this time, I'd like to
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Basically, we are the Gardening for Wildlife, and we are working on certifying Wilmington to be a certified wildlife habitat, and we are pretty much done with that almost. But next May, we will be coming back, and we will going to be presenting you along with North Carolina Wildlife and the National Wildlife. We will be all of us here, and we will be certifying you guys, and we'll have a big hey-do, and hopefully we'll get a lot of pictures with everybody, including the City Council. Yeah, it is. It's our centennial. Did you know that one of our members, Mr. Wade, he's the one that also did the Greenville Lake to get that. Yeah, he established that. So between Greenfield Lake 100 years ago, it's their centennial. It will be our centennial too.
Congratulations.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Give these ladies a great hand. Thank you. Next proclamation is a proclamation naming 18th through the 24th of May 2024 as Safe Boating Week in Wilmington. And I recognize Otis White, who's the safety officer of the Cape Fear Cell and Power Squadron. And this time, Mayor Pro Tem Barnett will deliver the proclamation.
Barnett. How are you? Hey. Hi. Thank you. City of Wilmington proclamation. Whereas North Carolina has 5,000 miles of water, shoreline, and 361,000 registered boaters in the state. And whereas boating and fishing are one of the state's most popular year-round activities. And whereas on average 630 people die in the United States each year in boating-related accidents. And approximately 80% of those fatalities are caused by drowning. And whereas in approximately 86% of the drowning cases, the victims was not wearing a life jacket. And whereas it is apparent that wearing a life jacket is the single most important factor in reducing boating-related deaths. And whereas the National Safe Boating Council, supported by the United States Coast Guard and other national organizations, has set May 20th through 26th, 2024, as National Safe Boating Week. Now, therefore, on behalf of the Wilmington City Council, I, Clifford Barnett, subbing for Bill Sappho, Mayor of the City of Wilmington, do hereby support the efforts of the Cape Fear Sail and Power Squadron and the National Safe Boating Council, and proclaim May 24th, 2024 as Safe Boating Week in the City of Wilmington, and the start of the year-round effort to promote safe boating and urge all persons to wear a life jacket at all times while boating. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bless you. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
I'd first like to ask how many of you own a boat in the audience? Raise your hands. There's always a group of us that know how much this costs. The Cape Fear Sail and Power Squadron is almost 75 years old, and we started here in Wilmington as a safe boating education group, offering safe boating education not only for the basics, but also for advanced navigation and advanced piloting techniques. Over those years, we've talked about wearing life jackets. When you get on your boat, put it on. When you leave the dock, wear it. When you come back, then you can take it off. When you go out in your car and you put on your seatbelt, you don't wait to put on that seatbelt until you think you might be in an accident. And the same thing's true with life jackets. When you have an accident on the water, you are likely to already be in trouble, and you need something that can help save your life. The fact that 86% of the drownings happen because people don't have a life jacket on should teach us something. Thank you very much for this award tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. Appreciate it. Be safe. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Sir, my
Thank
pleasure.
you. Next presentation is a presentation by the Wilmington Tree Commission of Heritage Tree Awards. And this time I'd like to recognize Thomas Boland, who is the chair of the Wilmington Tree Commission. Mr. Boland?
Is it okay to do it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, please.
Good evening. I'm Thomas Boland, Chair of the Wilmington Tree Commission. I want to express my gratitude to the Mayor and the Commissioners for appointing me and the other board members to the Wilmington Tree Commission. We do have other board members in the audience. If you would stand, please. The Wilmington Tree Commission was established in April 1996 to promote, protect, and enhance Wilmington's urban forest. Our mission is to administer awards and recognition programs that increase public education and encourage a healthy, safe, and attractive environment. Additionally, we serve as advocates for preserving and expanding the urban tree canopy for the city of Wilmington. The Wilmington Tree Commission extends its appreciation to the mayor and the commissioners for their support in developing the Urban Forestry Master Plan. We urge the continued support for implementing the plan's recommendations, particularly the completion of the inventory of all trees within Wilmington's borders. This inventory will serve as a benchmark for implementing strategies to improve and enhance the city's urban tree canopy. Now, urban trees offer numerous ecosystem services that improve air and water quality, as well as benefiting individuals and community well-being. They help to moderate temperatures, absorb stormwater, reduce wind speed, prevent water erosion, and filter pollutants from air, water, and soil. Furthermore, they provide visual and sound screens, soften the harsh urban landscapes, and increase property values. Tonight, we will be recognizing the heritage trees within the city of Wilmington. The Heritage Tree Program, initiated in 2007, aims to raise public awareness and appreciation of the value of age, rarity, overall beauty, or historical significance of trees within Wilmington's urban landscape. Although the program has been dormant for the past few years, we are reinvigorating it with the recognition of 13 beautiful trees this evening. So as I, the next slide, please. So the first tree is resident Julie Berger live oak, and it's a significant tree. Do you want me to hand out their certificates as I name them, or?
Yeah, we can bring her up. Julie Berger.
Is Julie Berger here today?
Come on up. All right. And I'll come down and we'll hand them to her. Thank you. Thank you. You get in the middle.
Picture.
You get in the middle.
Get in
You get in the middle. You get in the middle.
In the middle.
In the middle. Careful.
Grace is not my name.
Thank you.
Next, Jennifer Blomberg. Actually, she has two trees, and they're both pecan trees. As you can see in the picture, they're side by side. They're wonderful, gorgeous trees. She wasn't able to make it tonight, so we'll go to the next one. Next one is Richard Bunting. We have a beautiful laurel oak, and it's another significant tree. Is Richard Bunting here?
Congratulations, Richard. Thank you. Thank you.
The next tree is Donna and Douglas Dowson. This was actually the bargain box tree, but Donna and Douglas Dowson actually purchased the bargain box, and we're looking forward to continuing to preserve that tree.
All right. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you.
Mike and Lisa Gray are the next certificate honorees. Please come up and join us.
All right. Congratulations. Yes, thank you. My pleasure. Thank you, Mike. Yes, sir. All right.
The next one is Craig Harris, another live oak. It's a significant tree. Craig, are you with us? Next one. So Jack and Sharon Pollock, this is a bald cypress, and this is a specimen tree. So the specimen tree actually was bigger than what our basic tree that classifies a significant tree. So therefore, there could be other opportunities for further awards through the North Carolina, state of North Carolina.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. How are you? Good seeing you. No, give me a minute. Good seeing you.
So here is one for Tracy Sloop, American sycamore. It's another significant tree. So is Tracy here?
Tracy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next one is Craig Snow, another live oak, which is a significant tree. Thank you, Shauna.
And Diane.
And Diane. Thank you.
Hey, Craig.
This is yours.
How you doing, man?
This is yours to keep. I need to get over here. Thank you very much. And here is another beautiful laurel oak tree, Kathy Vazzetti.
Get in the middle. Thank you.
Next one is Jessica Whitney, another beautiful live oak here in the city of Wilmington. Is Jessica with us? She couldn't make it tonight. Last but not least is another beautiful live oak, David Vitek. Are you with us?
Thank you, sir. Georgia, man. All right.
That concludes our presentation, and I want to thank again the mayor and commissioner for allowing us to do this.
Thomas, thank you very much, and thank you to all the members of the committee for the outstanding work that you folks do, and especially recognizing the citizens in our community that are doing a tremendous job in
Thank you.
planting and taking care of trees. Thank you very much. And our last presentation this evening is a presentation of the city manager's 2025 recommended budget. At this time, I'd like to recognize Laura Mortel, who is the budget director for the city of Wilmington.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. Tonight, it's my pleasure to give the presentation for the city manager's FY25 recommended budget. The timeline you see here provides an overview of budget benchmarks to include work sessions that have already occurred in November, January, and March, the public hearing tonight, or the presentation tonight, and the public hearing, which is in 2 weeks, followed by another work session for council, and then adoption in June. There are two main components that help frame the budget. The first are the vision, mission, and values. These budget requests were developed around these values and assessed across the spectrum of compliance. The values are represented throughout the budget and provide the service delivery system that is tailored to the needs of our diverse neighborhoods and residents that we have in the city. The second is the strategic plan. The strategic plan foundation has been being developed for over a year. It was officially adopted in February of '24 and was used to develop the recommended budget. I want to start with the revenues, and I want to start with the total budget. This includes all funds. The budget totals just under $3 million. The general fund, located on the far left in the operating funds, makes up 50% at almost $150 million. The capital projects, which are over on the right-hand side, make up about 11% of the budget, which is just over $32 million. The assessed values came in at 2% growth. The budget is prepared with a real property tax rate of 42.25 cents per 100 assessed value, which is an adjustment of 2 3/4 cents or 6.9% above the current 39.5 cents. The recommended property tax adjustment is driven by the growth in non-discretionary costs that the city must fund, as well as substantial demands for improved services and capital infrastructure. A value of 1 cent is almost $2.3 million. And regarding the split of the tax, we have an increase of 1 1/4 for the general fund, and we have an increase of 1.5 cents related to the CIP multi-year plan for the debt service. To provide an example of the citizen impacts, the median assessed single-family residential value in the city is presently $270,000. From that residential price point, owners should see an increase of roughly $75 annually and $6 monthly. And now let's look at some of the general fund revenues. The general fund is expected to see a slight reduction from the estimated FY24 year-end revenue of just over 1%. This is mainly due to $8.5 million of fund balance, which was budgeted in FY24 for property acquisition, which is not needed in FY25. The general fund budget for '25 is just over $149 million. Property tax should see an overall increase of 6.2% over FY23 year-end estimate, and this is related to the 2% natural growth and the 1 1/4 cent adjustment recommended for general fund allocations. The allocation of sales and use tax is the most challenging to forecast, since it is dependent on economic environment, consumer confidence, and the 3.5-month lag in receiving those funds. While sales tax generated inflated growth rates during the pandemic, the trend was expected to slow. At FY23 year-end, the year-over-year growth rate was less than 3%, driving staff to estimate FY24 to be 3% instead of the budgeted 8%. This decline in sales tax occurred after the FY24 budget was adopted, and due to this, the recommended forecast for '25 is flat and remains at $45 million. And now for some of the highlights. The internal survey or internal analysis of salaries showed the city had several positions across different departments that currently are below market rate. The study also highlighted the need for a range adjustment in order to stay competitive. The budget proposes a compensation package that aims to align salaries with market standards and includes a pooled merit program. The funding will be allocated in packages related to both police and fire and non-exempts, which are the positions that are harder to recruit and retain employees. These will receive a 3% range adjustment and a 2% merit pool. The exempt positions will receive a 2% range adjustment and a 3% merit pool. So flip the numbers for the non-exempt or for the exempt. Another tool implemented for the FY25 budget to retain and attract staff is the installation of 2 limited career ladders to promote a culture of growth and advancement. The associated planner position will be replaced by an introduction of a planner 1 and a planner 2. Employees seeking advanced training can now progress through these new positions. Each of the 4 operational teams in planning will have 1 planner 2 in their group. A second career ladder will be implemented in stormwater and streets in the Public Works Division, who have comparable job responsibilities, aligning pay scales to create similar career paths. Advancement in both of these paths will be restricted based on the departmental service delivery requirements. The adopted strategic plan identifies a desire to improve neighborhood traffic. We can see this through better walkability and safer intersections. The resources available for this purpose is limited. Police just don't have enough resources to be everywhere. CIP funding is limited, and presently we have no substantial budget for traffic calming measures funded. Traffic incidents can be caused by a number of reasons: traffic volume and speed, weather, distraction, our multimodal capabilities, which is really where the connections exist for pedestrians and bikes. So what does this look like? What do our incidents look like? We have over 396 incidents between motor vehicles and pedestrians and bikes between 2019 and 2023. Over 74%, or 294 of those, were on our local streets. Staff proposes to revitalize the neighborhood traffic calming program through a 2-year incremental vehicle tax adjustment. The state has allowed jurisdictions to levy up to $30. $5 can be used for general purposes, which is what the city does now. 20 of the 30 can be used for transportation purposes, and 5 can be levied for transit, which does not apply to the city based on the setup of Wave Transit. Therefore, the city can authorize a levy up to $25. As a point of reference, the city benchmarked 21 other jurisdictions. Only 2 others levied $5, New Bern and Kernersville. 13 levied the full amount to include Asheville, Raleigh, and Winston-Salem, and the rest levied between $15 and $25. Beginning in FY25, the proposal is to increase the levy to $15, which is $10 more than what we have now, with another 10 planned for FY26 to reach the $25. As the city continues to grow, the need for resourcing and reinforcing the neighborhood traffic program has increased. Revitalization of the neighborhood traffic calming program would hire a transportation project engineer and a transportation planner to foster the planning process that focuses on pedestrian bicyclist interactions and organizes the city's response. In addition to this, the budget proposes a new approach for funding capital maintenance and preservation initiatives. Previously, all capital projects had to contend for limited funding, often resulting in the capital maintenance projects being sidelined to ensure the balance is budget. This increases the cost of our maintenance, and so what we are proposing is to dedicate 1 cent of the property tax rate to capital maintenance projects that have a life expectancy less than 20 years. This funding allows for financial growth in future years, and true infrastructure projects will be strategically prioritized based on the health and safety of the community. In relation to the capital infrastructure projects, a suggested half-a-cent property tax adjustment is necessary to support general governance infrastructure projects. These projects are limited and total just under $10 million for FY25. These projects include bridge replacements, athletic facility improvements, greenfield lake structure repairs, and public facility improvements. The city's capital improvement plan consists of many other projects to include enterprise fund needs, such as stormwater, golf, and parking. The planned 5-year CIP is just under $110 million, with stormwater receiving 43% at just over $46 million, streets, sidewalks, and trails receiving 40% at the funding level of $43 million. The multi-year CIP initiatives provides an initial funding response to the 2023 community survey related to traffic flow management and management of streets and sidewalks, which were the top 2 overall concerns respondents wanted to see an increased emphasis placed. The budget maintains its commitment to allocate general fund resources towards promoting and assisting the development of reasonably priced housing options for families with low to moderate incomes. Recommended in the budget is a continuation of the 1 cent dedication of property tax for affordable housing efforts. Recommendation also includes a new housing rehabilitation technician. In the budget, the position will further support a partnership with code enforcement to streamline the accuracy of housing rehabilitation cost estimate. In doing this, it will align opportunities for those impacted in code enforcement to potential financial help through the community development block programs. This budget initiative will continue to impact availability of affordable housing, which in 2023 community survey was identified as the third most important challenge facing the city. The city provides funding to nonprofits that provide public service support opportunities and direct services consistent with the city's objectives. Applications for these funds are considered through a competitive process and for 2 consecutive years of funding. The recommended budget has just over $708,000 allocated for this purpose, which is a 3% increase from last time. The last contract cycle was changed slightly to be more inclusive and to allow new programs to enter into the process. FY25 has several new programs to include Cape Fear Collective, Healing Place, Legal Aid of North Carolina, and Brooklyn Arts Academy. These and all other recommended programs can be found starting on page 77 of the recommended budget publication. There are over $1 million in the budget that are just for core services and that required more funding to continue the same level of service in prior years. For some of those, this includes hiring 2 positions in finance, a buyer and an accountant. Both locations have not received an FTE increase in many years, but their transactions increased significantly. These positions will provide much-needed capacity, streamlining internal services. Software, contracts, equipment, and maintenance all have increased with inflation where the same funding does not have the same purchasing price. The budget supports several areas that require more funding to continue those services, but doesn't support all of them. So let's talk about the enterprise funds. Parking is balanced at $11.2 million, which is an increase of 31%. This includes contract increases related to credit card fees. Funding is required for needs for new parking facilities at the Skyline Center, as well as surface lots at the old Coast Guard location and the Salvation Army location. There are a few transfers being programmed for FY25. $2 million of fund balance will be transferred to the debt service to reimburse the debt service incurred for River Place deck. Lastly, parking will be transferring $250,000 to the general fund to support general fund activities not associated with the indirect cost study, but rather services rendered in and around parking facilities such as mowing and mulching, signs and marking, as well as street sweeping and police and fire citations in parking areas. And then lastly, the third year of a 3-year plan for fee adjustments is included in the proposed budget and is supported by the advisory board. Stormwater is balanced at $14.3 million, which is an increase of 7%. The budget includes a new nutrition management program for Greenfield Lake, a career ladder, which I had discussed for several of the stormwater worker positions, is included, and a fee adjustment, which is 1%, which is recommended by our financial model. Recycling and trash is balanced at $12.5 million, which is an increase of just over 1%. The budget is essentially flat with no recommendations for fee adjustment. There are new requests related to cart inventory and marketing of the ASL implementation. We have disposal fees that are flat with the exception of refuge that has increased from $52 per ton to $54 per ton. All adjustments were covered with current budget and the natural growth of revenue. Golf is balanced at $3.6 million, which is a 66% increase. Requests include a new contract for golf carts, funds to cover credit card processing fees, and maintaining current contracts. The transfer, which is most of that 66, is $1.5 million of fund balance supporting 2 CIP projects. The first is the irrigation project, as well as their golf maintenance project in the capital budget. They are proposing a $2 green fee increase, which is supported by the advisory board. The next steps, budget document will be available at the following locations tomorrow. the city's website, City Hall, highlights on social media, GTV8, and then downtown library, New Hanover County Library. And again, just as a reminder of the next upcoming events is public hearing in 2 weeks, council's work session, the end of the month, and adoption in June. As we move through reviewing the budget, if there is any questions, please contact the city manager or myself so we can facilitate those questions and gather the information for you so you can make your work session on the 24th productive. Thank you for your time, guidance, and patience this budget development.
We have a question here, Mr. Waddell.
Thank you, as always, Ms. Mortel, for putting together this packet and presentation. And I understand we're not, this is just but in anticipation of the first reading on the 21st, I can send some questions in an email. But I thought everybody in the room would be easier for me to just go through a couple of items in anticipation of the 21st that maybe we could bring for the discussion that I would have, maybe cut out some of the time. But I'm going to start from the back of the budget. This will just take a moment. The Safe Flight program, I know last year we had, in our budget discussion, we discovered that it was costing the taxpayer $222,000. They had a deficit of about that much. I see that there's an 11% increase in the cost to run that program this year. I'm just wondering what that delta, what that cost to the taxpayer will be, or if it's being made up somehow in that budget. So that's one item. I believe there was a request from the fire department to have some form of mental health training. I don't see that outlaid in the budget. It may be, under some line item, so I would just ask to have that called out as well. And then the police department budget, there was a slide on there that said there's just not enough. I think it was maybe the 5th or 6th slide that you had. It said they need more people, effectively. There's the top line item in the PD budget has a Office of the Chief with a 33% increase in personnel, but down in uniform patrol, it's negative 4%. So I wonder if we can discuss that delta, what positions are getting filled, and if that actually results into bodies and boots on the ground. Almost done, guys. There's a line item on page 20, or there's a note on page 23 for adding an engineering associate, which I know we've got a lot of work going on in that department. But it specifically calls out the fiber optic network, which I understand there's, I'm on the CFPUA board, we're calling it fiber apocalypse because it's just happening everywhere. That is going to be a fairly short-term duration, and so I just want to know if is that really the driving force for adding an additional position. And then lastly, with regards to the dedicated 1 cent property tax for affordable housing, we've had that since FY23. I would just ask if we could have a year-over-year breakdown if we've actually spent that 1 cent in its entirety, and if we have, just have that detailed out. I think that's it for now, and I'm not asking for any answer to any of those questions at the moment. Thank you.
We're happy to gather that for you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next item of business is our consent agenda, items 1 through 13. If any items would like to be heard by any council member separately, please let me know now. If not, what are the wishes of council in respect
Mr. Mayor.
to the consent agenda? Yes, sir, Ms. Spears.
I want to pull C8, C9, and C10.
C8, C9, and C10. Okay. Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor, the staff is asking that you remove C4 for action at a later date.
Remove C4 altogether? Okay, very good. All right, anybody else? All right, can we have a motion to approve the consent agenda items, withdrawing items C8, C9, C10, and C4? We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Barnett, second by Councilmember Rivenbark. Any discussion? All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. This time, I'd like to recognize Councilmember Kevin Spears. Mr. Spears?
So, Mr. Manager, C8 is the resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with SHI International Corp. of Somerset, New Jersey for GIS Cloud Migration Project, $127,300. And I guess my question is for Brian. So in reading this, I'm not really good with computers.
Yeah, right.
But it's to better support a growing GIS workforce, migrating our enterprise GIS to a cloud environment. Well, the thing that got me, there's a line in here that talked about the cloud pricing models allowing the city to only pay for what we use, take advantage. Something about the stress on staff.
Oh, okay. What this is doing for the city is it's taking some of the hardware that we have to maintain in the city and the capital operating costs that we have to pay for, and we're putting up in the cloud, so now it's becoming an operational expense. And my staff does not have to maintain it. We don't have to do all the patching. We don't have to make the certificates on the hardware every year. So it's taking the burden and putting it on the cloud service company to take care of that.
Right, but it'll free staff up, but free staff up to do what? Because, once going in cloud is not the end-all, be-all.
Correct.
For IT, and so if the people who maintain those systems in the cloud go down.
Yeah, if the system goes down, the cloud company has to maintain it, but we're still there making changes for our needs, but we don't have to maintain the underlying layer of the software as the upgrades and patches that go on to the server software. So that would be a burden placed on the company.
So that's going to streamline us. We're going to get better.
It'll make it easier on us so our staff doesn't have to do that. They have plenty of other work to do, trust me.
Gotcha. Yeah, that part stood out to me, and that contract was for, hold on.
$127,300.
But how many years? Was it 3?
Yes, sir. First year of engagement. Gotta look at my notes.
I'm looking at it too, so.
No, this is actually I believe it's for a one-year engagement. This is the only one that's a single-year engagement.
Okay, so for a single year, and then at the end of that single year, what do we do? Do we renegotiate where we are with this company, or are we looking for someone else? Because I think that's probably my issue. The short-term contracts that we're having here, and then we're starting over from scratch. And I've experienced that a few times since I've been on council. It seems like we would build a better rapport with some of these companies so we can get more going forward.
Yeah, and the other side of this is if we have to replace our hardware. And I think the last time it was about $300,000 to $400,000 that we had to do one-time expenditure, which lasted 4 years roughly. And so part of this, $20,000 of this is the actual implementation cost. So it's only going to be $100,000 a year. And they'll be able to, as we said, maintain it, and we don't have to spend out the capital cost every year. Every 4 years of 400, it's probably $500,000 now in cost. So we see this not only as a personnel savings, but it's also saving in the cash flow of the city by not having to spend that $500,000 for a 4-year product.
Well, $500,000 for 4 years, but $100,000 a year is about the same.
$100,000 difference, roughly. I didn't run the numbers on it, so there may be more or less.
But within.
But we do have the advantage that staff does not have to take care of everything on it. If it goes down, it can be run. If there's a hurricane, it's in the cloud somewhere else. And we have a backup that you can operate from anywhere in the world. So that is also another piece of the puzzle is when a hurricane comes, somebody else is maintaining it somewhere away from Wilmington, North Carolina. Does that help you there?
You may have just sold me with that.
Okay,
piece
good.
Right there. So, so do you want me to wait before go through all of them?
I think if it'd be okay, since we have Brian here, and I think they're all pertaining to him anyway, so go
Yes,
ahead.
sir.
Well, except for, I mean, C9, and that's probably Clayton, as far as this NeoGov software. And it's not really technical. It's about, it says it's a one-stop shop for HR. And Laura just mentioned how hard it is for us to recruit and retain employees. So I'm just wondering if we have this software that's doing some things that we probably should have some human eyes and some human experience and knowledge about, where you may see something in an employee by looking at an application or an interview with someone that some HR software may not get.
Yeah, so we have, so the software, the applicant tracking system, NeoGov, it does have some automation in it where you can set up questions based on job requirements, what the department's looking for, and the system can automatically go in and will calculate if you meet those qualifications. But our staff, we have 2 recruiters, and they have eyeballs, and they go in and they look at every one of those applications that meet the qualifications. And with as tight a labor market is today, we're also looking at those that don't meet the minimum qualifications.
Okay. Same. So you may have just sold me with that too. So C10,
Yes, sir.
Brian, and that language there got me the use of dilapidated.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
That's being kind, actually.
Yeah, so there is a dilapidated old building that is inadequate to house all of the city's computer infrastructure, is also a physical security risk, a fire hazard, and unfit for city employees.
Yes, sir.
And while reading that, I was like, man, that is such strong language.
That, quite frankly, Councilman Spears, is an understatement.
Well, I've heard that.
If you'd like a tour of the building, I'll be glad to take you in there.
No thanks. Security is a real huge priority for me.
Yes, sir. And frankly, we have done a wholly inadequate effort with regard to this building. It's been in this shape for probably at least 3 to 5 years. We've been anticipating moving it from one building to another. We first were going to move it up to 414, where IT was located. Then we decided it would be better to move it to the location at 305 when we remodeled there. Then, of course, when we bought the Skyline Center, it made it made perfect sense just to move it to that location.
Right.
And so we're in the process of doing that, and Brian is being pushed a little harder than he'd probably prefer with regard to moving that, because we'd like to get it in place as quickly as possible.
Gotcha. But yeah, I just, some of the language just kind of.
It is an awful building, and fortunately, our staff's no longer in there. We've gotten some reports about asbestos in there. As long as nothing's, being removed, bolts out of the floor, we're safe. We need to get out of that building. We have lots of room in the Skyline Center building. Right. It's a great location for a data center for us.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Glad I could help.
I make a motion that has C8, C9, C10.
Okay. We have a motion by Councilmember Spears, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Barnett, to accept items C8, C9, and C10. Any further discussion? All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. Madam Clerk, you've got the sender on that. I know that you've got it recorded. Thank you so much. Okay, that brings us to our next item of business, which is our public information segment. We have 6 speakers that have signed up to speak this evening. Each speaker will be allotted 5 minutes. The clerk has the time clock, so when you hear it beep, your time is up. So our first speaker is Ms. Kathy Steele, who will be talking to us about city ordinance review for chickens in the Wilmington city limits. Ms. Steele?
Hello, my name is Kathy Steele. I'm here to request amending current policies regarding having chickens in the Wilmington city limits. The ordinance was last challenged in 2016. 8 years ago. I believe the laws need to be updated and made more fair. And in this case, I'm talking about hens, not roosters. In Wilmington, where the population is over 120,000, one must have 15,000 square feet of yard to have no more than 5 chickens. That's a little over a third of an acre. Here's a comparison of neighboring cities' ordinances. The cities' populations are approximated. Raleigh. Raleigh has a population of about 1,700,000. Raleigh allows 1 chicken per 1,000 square feet and no more than 10 per yard. Charlotte. Charlotte has a population of 2,400,000 residents and allows for 20 chickens per acre. On property less than 1 acre, you're allowed the proportionate amount. For example, 20 chickens per acre, 10 per half acre, 5 per quarter acre, and so on. Greensboro. Greensboro has a population of over 376,000. One must have 7,000 square feet, which is 0.161 of an acre, for 4 birds, and up to 20 birds on 12,000 square feet, which is 0.275 of an acre. Durham. Durham has a population of 440,000 people. Durham allows for 10 chickens per lot, no lot size restrictions. Fayetteville. Fayetteville has a population of 360,000 and allows up to 10 birds per 6,000 square foot lot. Cary. In Cary, where the population is about 177,000, depending on the zoning district, you may have 5 chickens in certain areas and no limit in other districts. In the 6 surrounding areas that I researched with higher populations, the variance is significant and unfair for Wilmington. Hens provide sustainability by providing fresh eggs. It's like we in Wilmington are being penalized for having local production. My hens were pets and had names, and also provided responsibility and therapy for my 34-year-old autistic daughter. I have 12,000 square feet of property, and my daughter's girls had to go because of lot size. I urge you to please evaluate this and consider amending this ordinance for Wilmington. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker is Mr. John Voigt. He'll be speaking to us about resolution condemnation. Mr. Voigt? Is Mr. Voigt here? Okay. Move on to the next person. Next person is Maad Abu Ghazala. I hope I didn't mispronounce your name, sir. The rebuttal to arguments against the ceasefire resolution.
My iPhone here. Good evening. My name is Maad Abu Ghazala. I'm Palestinian American. I live in Wilmington. Before I start, I want to thank Councilwoman Salet Andrews for recognizing a mission we had a few months ago where we rescued 70 dogs from the West Bank and we brought them to the U.S. And I'm glad to say they're all in foster homes now. We've got 4 of them here in Wilmington. So thank you for recognizing us. So I want to rebut 2 main arguments people give against a resolution for a ceasefire. The first argument people give is that it's really complicated, so we really shouldn't take sides because, you know, how are we going to solve a problem that's been going on for so long? And that's really misrepresenting what the ceasefire resolution is. We're not asking you to decide, should we support Palestinians, should we support Israelis? We're asking you to decide, how do we solve this problem? Do we solve it through violence or do we solve it peacefully? That's all we're asking you to do. It's that simple. Who's right and who's wrong that's the second step. How do we get there? That's the first step. Our side is saying, let's stop the violence and let's address this peacefully through the United Nations, through international law. The opposing side is saying, no, let's solve this problem through violence. It's that simple. So don't let them complicate the situation. It's not that complicated. Any moral code says, thou shalt not kill. That's in the Bible. The Quran says, if you kill one soul, it's as if you've killed all of mankind. And another moral code is the Golden Rule, treat others as you want to be treated. Under any of these moral codes, solving problems through violence is not the answer. That's the rule of the jungle, and I hope we've gotten past that. The second argument people give is that we need to give Israel a chance to defend itself. Of course, people should have the right to defend themselves. If somebody punches you in the face, you have a right to fight back and even punch them in the face if you have to. But it's been 7 months. You don't have the right to go home, think about it, get your troops together, then go to their house and start pummeling everybody there and start punching the person in the face. 7 months into it, the police comes and says, hey, stop it. Let's do this another way. And you say, no, I'm defending myself. That's not how self-defense works. When there's an imminent danger, you have the right to defend yourself. After that, it's time to let the authorities handle it and resolve it peacefully. Before my time's out, I want to thank UNCW folks that are here. Who's at UNCW? Supporting us. Thanks for showing up. This is a defining moment for all of you. What you do or don't do in the next 2 weeks is not just going to define who you are, but it's going to be your legacy to our youth. This is how they're going to see you. What did you do when it came time to decide? Am I going to stand up for what's right, or am I just not going to do anything? This is your chance to make a difference. All we're saying is give peace a chance. Thank you.
Next speaker, Kristen Morgan. Is Kristen Morgan here? Kristen Morgan? Okay. Amajad Aki? Who's speaking to us about humanity and peace activism.
Good evening, all. Good evening, Mr. Mayor Saffo. Good evening, council members. Good evening, everyone. Wilmington, our city, is beautiful because of its people. We are the people. We are a great community, and we can be even better. We deserve to be respected and to be heard. We expect and hope for your support and solidarity with our call, as well as the voice of the majority of voters that support a permanent ceasefire based on its humanity, deep empathy, and international human rights code. The people of Palestine won't disappoint you. They need your help to stop the pain and suffering. They need to be freed. And we all will be proud. Changing the world happened when you listen to your heart. A little verse from the Quran says, I have created you, tribes and nations, to meet and get to know one another. It doesn't say hate one another, kill one another, or occupy one another. This verse describes how America is great because we all are from different tribes and nations living here united under the Constitution and the rule of law. Because of this collaboration, America is regarded as the greatest country in the world. Now, the solidarity with Palestine is all over the world and in every single country. The plight of the people to liberate Palestine is global. Mayor Saffo, I have known you as our mayor for many years, and you always seemed very nice and pragmatic. You witnessed our city improve and grow and redefine its priorities in a way that makes us stand out, and proudly so. Your leadership helped making great strides. The city of Wilmington is an important landmark historically and geographically. I describe that to you as a reminder to your significant role. As our city leader, my expectations of the city council and all its members is to help us by voting on the resolution for a permanent ceasefire and the return of all hostages, Israeli and Palestinians. We will pursue in our struggle to be heard and to be helped. We are only asking you to stand by a humanitarian statement, and we hope that you will. Avoiding any actions will be a great disappointment to us and to the human race. If you heed our pleas, it would be a victory to all of us. As it is written in the Quran and in the Torah, by saving one life is as you saved the whole humanity. All of your voices can help stop that bloodshed on both sides. Please don't deny us. We are as valuable as you are. We are going to keep talking about Palestine. The two-state solution will free both Israelis and Palestinians from agony and fear, will lead both to great prosperity. The Muslim community here in this city are rallying with us for the same call. We expect some level of communication from you to further explain our stance on this matter. It is important. I would like to thank all the members of ILM for Peace in Palestine for their hard work in mobilizing and in calling out loud to shed light on the issue and the dire need for a ceasefire. They invest with their time and money to bring positive change to an important cause. I wouldn't be here if not for them. I am humble and grateful to them. And let me take this opportunity to emphasize the need for a peace process that would create a two-state solution, where Israeli and Palestinian can live next to one another with collaboration and cooperation. That will strengthen both countries in terms of democracy and human rights for the residents. Furthermore, it will reduce the financial burden put on the USA, as it is apparent with its current policies, where billions of dollars are spent on war efforts and security. In order to achieve such a milestone, it is crucial to have the support of all parties. Therefore, calling for a permanent ceasefire would be the right decision to further the success of the ultimate goal for peace, in all the region. I would like to say, if it was a trial, it would have been concluded by now. We have brought to you all the evidence. We informed you about the facts on the ground to enable you to have an informed decision regarding this matter. I will be honored to be able to meet with you privately, in private setting, where I can explain further to you the deep-seated misconceptions that are circulating in the media and give you also a clearer view of the issues that we are dealing with in my homeland. I would like to say thank you for listening. We are looking forward for the decision and actions that you all will make in regard to this dire issue. Free Palestine, guys. I would like to ask you all, please put this on the agenda. It's been too long. It has truly been too long. My son would like to say a word, if you don't mind.
Hello, everyone. I'm here to ask you to help protect kids like me and their families in Gaza. It is very important. Thank you. Free, free Palestine.
Thank you. Thank you all.
And our last speaker this evening is Sana Rockwell, who will be speaking to us about the Israeli-Palestinian ceasefire resolution. Ms. Rockwell.
Good evening again. It's good to see you all. After attending several of these meetings, I was pondering what it takes for leaders to make sound decisions. I thought of two things. First was information. I learned last time I have to speak faster, so I'm going to do that. So information, facts that help us put things in context and understand the whole picture. Then I wondered, what more could we possibly share with our city council members to help them understand why a ceasefire resolution is so important for our community? The answer came from someone rather close to me, a white American man in his 60s. He asked me recently, why do you guys say Free Palestine at your rallies? I'm not here to shame him, as it's hard for me to keep up with the facts and the history too. I did think to myself though, wow, you're educated, you've spent over 20 years coming in and out of the Middle East, and you married me a Palestinian American, and you still don't understand. To be fair, he does have one good excuse. He's never stopped reading the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. This is obviously not a joking matter. However, my husband's question reminded me of how little we Americans know about the daily hardships that Palestinians endure, living under the internationally recognized illegal Israeli occupation of their land. I knew that my sources today had to be from Israeli references, as we have sadly been conditioned not to trust the truth in stories of the oppressed, or even worse, to blame them. I'm also aware of the narrative that has been used for so many years to silence anyone who has the courage to speak up for humanity. The idea that advocating for the Palestinians' right to a life free of occupation and oppression, or sharing the truth about the atrocities that the Israeli government is committing daily against the Palestinian people is anti-Semitic. I refuse to be silenced by such manipulative and divisive narrative. Instead, I will adopt Dr. Martin Luther King's thoughts about inextricable connectedness, and Father Richard Rohr's idea that we can listen and understand each other, rather than perpetuate the detrimental false dichotomy of two opposing sides. I wonder then, can our hearts go out to the 128 Israeli hostages taken by Hamas, and at the same time, feel for the 4,499 Palestinian hostages in Israeli jails, taken illegally across borders, many of them held with no charges, tortured to their death? What about the 178 Palestinian children yanked out of their mothers' arms and imprisoned by Israel? Can our hearts go out to them too? While we grieve the death of over 1,100 Israelis on October 7th, can we also grieve and pray for the Palestinians who are killed every day by Israeli soldiers and settlers? Data from the Israeli human rights organization B'Tselem shows over 10,700 Palestinians murdered by Israelis in the last 20 years alone. That doesn't count the 35,000 people killed over 7 months. While we show empathy to the Israeli families whose lives have been impacted by the attacks of October 7th, can we also dream of a free Palestine? One where all people, including Palestinians, can move freely through their country without trying to get through 700 checkpoints that were put up by the Israeli government simply to control their movement, to humiliate them every day so that their lives are unlivable, limiting their access to get to school, prohibiting Palestinians from getting to work, grocery shopping, going to the doctor. Women are giving birth in cars, often hemorrhaging to death because they are made to wait unnecessarily at these checkpoints. As we mourn the loss of Israeli soldiers, young men and women who have been ordered to commit hideous war crimes, can we also hold in our hearts the brave peace activists that have been killed by Israel? People like Rachel Corrie, the American nonviolent peace activist, who was crushed to death by an Israeli armed bulldozer a month shy of her 24th birthday. As you know, the proposed ceasefire resolution calls for the release of Israeli hostages and a permanent ceasefire in Gaza, so the Palestinian people can get the peace they deserve. I believe we can do both. That brings me to the second ingredient of sound decision-making, courage. By definition, courage is not the absence of fear. It is doing what is right despite the fear. I know that each of you possess that courage. You wouldn't have made it this far in your careers if you haven't. Can you tap into that courage to unite us as a community, to do what is right instead of what is easy? To show us that you believe in our shared humanity and the universal ideals of justice that apply to every human? In closing, I'll share with you, B'Tselem's website states that they strive to end Israel's regime of apartheid and occupation, as that is the only way forward to a future in which human rights, democracy, liberty, and equality, our own American values, are ensured to all people, both Palestinian and Israeli, living between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea. So when we join fellow Israeli and Jewish humanitarians who have had enough of the divisive rhetoric that has only caused death and destruction, and we chant Free Palestine, we mean end the brutal illegal occupation of a whole people and their land. Stop the injustice, stop the cruelty, come back to our shared humanity so we can all live free and safe, regardless of religion and ethnic background. We cannot favor the humanity of one group over another without losing our own. With the right leadership and communication, a ceasefire resolution will unite our Wilmington community and make us stronger, reminding us that recognizing our shared humanity is the foundation for lasting peace. We urge you to please put that on the agenda and vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item of business is our public hearings. Item PH1 is an ordinance amending the official zoning maps of the city of Wilmington to rezone property located at 203 52nd Street from R10 medium density single dwelling district to R5 medium density mixed residential district. I'd like to recognize the city manager, Mr. Caudle. Mr. Caudle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. Miranda France, our associate planner, will overview this item for us.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of the council. The site is located southeast of the intersection of 52nd Street and Mulberry Avenue and contains approximately .339 acres and is currently occupied by a detached single dwelling unit. This map shows the general vicinity surrounding the request, as well as photos of the subject property. And these are photos of the existing conditions surrounding the subject property. These are photos of the adjacent properties and land uses. Residential uses are located in all directions, with commercial and civic institutional uses to the south. The site is currently zoned R10 medium density single dwelling district and is bordered by R10 to the east and west, R5 and R5 CD to the north, and CB community business to the south. Subject property is identified as Live Work Innovation Zone area of opportunity on the Comprehensive Plan's Growth Strategies map, and the plan supports increased densities with infill development near major commercial services. Low to medium density residential areas and/or low intensity mixed-use developments should serve as transitions between lower density neighborhoods and more intensive commercial, residential, and mixed-use areas. Staff believes the proposed zoning amendment is consistent with the recommendations of the Create Wilmington Comprehensive Plan and that the request is reasonable and in the public interest. Staff recommends approval. Additionally, following their April 3rd meeting, the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval for the request. And that concludes staff's presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and the applicant is here as well.
Are there any questions of staff? Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
This time I'd like to recognize the applicant.
Thank you very much. Good evening. My name's Cindy Wolf. I'm here on behalf of Falk Properties. I've been working with Mickey Falk since the early 2000s in this neighborhood, and you can see by this map, the zoning map, that he has a lot of properties in this neighborhood and has consistently been upgrading the neighborhood, whether it be with new homes or homes that he's rehabbed and located from other places. This is a straight rezoning, which is sort of unusual, but I felt like the difference in the whole neighborhood situation was important to see. Another one of our sort of historic landowner renters in this area is also Joe Priest, and he owns the other properties all around this area. So we believe that keeping this house, which is on one of the two lots that could be created if this is rezoned, makes a lot of sense. Even though that second lot could have a duplex, we were sure to make the building that exists there right now that it can continue because it's a good home. So with that, we'd appreciate your support of this along with the staff and the Planning Commission, because we do feel that this supports increased density for infill development, and it's certainly location efficient housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Okay. Thank you, ma'am. At this time, I'm going to open up the public hearing and ask if anybody in the public wishes to speak on item PH1. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, have you received any additional commentary?
No, sir, I have not.
Okay. Are there any further questions from council? I will now close the public hearing and ask for the wishes of council. We have a motion approved by Councilmember Ravmark, second by Councilmember Joyner. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, I know Mr. Falk, and if everybody that came down here that did projects like he does, it'd make our job a lot easier. They're always first class. I move to approve the proposed amendment to rezone property located at 203 52nd Street from R10 Moderate Density Single Dwelling District to R5 Medium Density Mixed Residential District and find it to be consistent with the relevant policies in the comprehensive plan based on the application materials and the information provided at the public hearing and in the staff report, and to find approval of the rezoning request as reasonable and in the public interest for the following reasons. The proposed rezoning is consistent with the area and would allow for compatible infill development.
Okay. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That item passes unanimously on first reading. Is there a motion to waive second reading? Motion made by Councilmember Andrews, second by Councilmember Waddell. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes unanimously on first as well as second reading. That brings us to our next item of business, which is our ordinances. Item 01 is an ordinance directing the housing inspector to vacate, close, and repair or demolish a dwelling at 1004 South 7th Street as unfit for human habitation pursuant to Article 5, Chapter 16 of the City Code, and directing that a notice be placed thereon prohibiting its use or occupancy. This is being heard on a second reading. So does council have any further questions?
Was there any progress or anything? I noticed you didn't say it was any.
Is this for a 233 Racine? Sorry, I didn't look at my note. Yeah, so for Racine, I spoke with, I met with the owner. We sat down. She had a vendor come to her house yesterday, and she has a quote for cleanup. She's asked that start date for the cleanup to be May 13th, but she does not have a signed agreement to start that work. I've spoken with the vendor, and with the passing of this ordinance, we'll work with her, and if we need to come in and take care of it, we will.
Okay. How about the 1004 South 7th Street?
In 1004, we have not seen any change. One of the family members deeded it to another family member in that time frame, but there's been no change, no permit, no action.
Okay, very good. Any further questions? Okay. So what are the wishes of council in respect to item 01? I have a motion to approve by Councilmember Andrews, second by Mayor Pro Tem Barnett. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. That brings us to item 02, which is the one that he just mentioned, which is an ordinance directing the housing inspector to vacate, close, and repair in the dwelling at 233 Racine Drive, Unit 3 is unfit for human habitation pursuant to Article 5, Chapter 16 of the City Code, and directing that a notice be placed thereon prohibiting its use or occupancy. With the wishes of council in respect to the item, we have a motion to approve by Councilmember Rivenbark, second by Mayor Pro Tem Barnett. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that item also passes unanimously. That brings us to our next item of business, which is item 03, which is an ordinance making supplemental appropriations in the amount of $1,007,822 to the Kerr Avenue Trail Project from various transportation bond projects and the Transportation Bonds Bike and Pedestrian Contingency Fund. At this time, I'd like to recognize our city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Patricia Hazel, our engineering project manager, will overview this item for us.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
If you could pull that just a little bit, there you go.
Better? Is that
Yeah,
better?
it's perfect.
Adjust it for height.
There you go.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of council. Before you tonight is an ordinance making a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $1,007,822 from completed transportation bond projects and the Transportation Bonds Bike and Pedestrian Contingency Fund to the Kerr Avenue Trail Project. This new trail will connect to the existing NCDOT path at Randall Parkway, extending it along South Kerr Avenue, Fountain Drive, and College Road where it will link with UNCW and the Gary Shale Cross City Trail. The request is based on the latest estimates to cover the difference between currently budgeted funds and the estimated pre-construction cost. The additional costs are primarily associated with increased length due to not reaching a trail alignment agreement with UNCW, additional costs associated with property acquisition and utility relocations, and the original estimate being based on a high-level concept rather than an engineered design as we have now. The project is expected to bid late this year, with construction starting in the spring of 2025. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Are there any questions? Mr. Joyner?
When you say that we were not able to reach an agreement with UNCW for trail alignment, can you tell us more about that? I'm very surprised to hear that there was not an agreement there.
I will defer that question to Mike Naklicki, our division project manager.
Good evening, Councilman Joyner. Unfortunately, Patricia wasn't here when we went through a lot of those discussions. Several years ago, we met with UNCW. There was actually a road extension project as part of the transportation bond to extend Hearst Drive through the old I think a movie theater lot that is currently being used for parking. We met with them over the course of a couple years to discuss various alignments and development scenarios where we could run our connecting road through there. Ultimately, the chancellor decided that they didn't want to tie up that property and restrict potential future development. The plan was for this trail that Ms. Hazel is discussing to follow that same road alignment. Unfortunately, we could not do that, so we found another route that went further down Carr Ave to Fountain Drive, back up College, and ultimately connecting to UNCW.
Okay, so am I understanding correctly? Essentially, their objection is that that property may be used for future development. It's not appropriate to put a road or a path through that property at this time from their perspective.
That's correct. They didn't have their future plan finalized at that point, and they didn't want to put too many restrictions on the future development.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Sure thing.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
For the wishes of council in respect to the ordinance, we have a motion to approve by Councilmember Reinbach, second by Councilmember Andrews. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes unanimously on first reading. Is there a motion to waive second reading? Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Barnett, second by Councilmember Waddell. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes unanimously on first as well as second reading. That brings us to item 04, which is the ordinance making the supplemental appropriation in the amount of $1,275,000 from the sale of surplus properties to pay the debt service on the Skyline Center. At this time, I'd like to recognize our City Manager, Mr. Caudle. Mr. Caudle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jennifer Moretti, our Finance Director, will overview this item.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members. The item before you this evening is an ordinance requesting approval to appropriate $1,275,000 of sale proceeds from the property sales of 320 North Front Street at $750,000 and 1502 Wellington Avenue for $525,000, and to transfer these funds to the debt service fund for payment of debt service on the Skyline Center properties financed in July of 2023. As y'all recall, one of the debt issuances in the financing has a variable rate and allows for prepayment of debt without penalty. As we sell properties, the proceeds will be used to pay down this debt, saving interest costs and reducing the liability while creating capacity for future needs. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I think you'll probably be happy about this, don't you?
I'm very happy about
I'm sure
this.
you are, as we all are. Okay, any questions? Okay, thank you. Thank you. For the wishes of council, we have a motion to approve by Councilmember Spears, second by Councilmember Waddell. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item passes unanimously on first reading. Is there a motion to waive second reading? Motion made by Councilmember Joyner, second by Councilmember Waddell. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes unanimously on first as well as second reading. That brings us to our next.
Mr. Mayor, may I interrupt for a second?
You may.
Ms. Moretti, will you please stand again?
Stand.
She's not only happy about selling this 1.7 or putting this $1.7 million towards debt, but I wanted to tell you that earlier this week, she announced her retirement effective December 12th of 24. So I wanted you to have an opportunity to enjoy her good work, her professionalism, and her good demeanor up until then. But I at least wanted to let you know because it will be a valuable loss to the city. And I am sure that she is going to very much enjoy her retirement, but I needed to let you know that she would be leaving us in about 6 months.
Mr. Mayor, can I motion to deny?
Second. Jennifer, you've done an outstanding job for this community, and we really appreciate all of your hard work over the years, and you've given us good counsel, not only within the council, but also at the Bond Council in Raleigh, working with them over the years, the millions and millions of dollars that we have used for a lot of things throughout the history of this community while you've been here. So we just thank you so much for all your hard work. And retirement well deserved, and enjoy whatever you're going to do. Just enjoy it. Thank you. Next item of business is our resolutions. Item R1 is a resolution to officially accept certain drainage easements in the Magnolia subdivision. At this time, I'd like to recognize our city manager, Mr. Caudle. Mr. Caudle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dave Mays, our Public Works Director, will overview this item for us.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Council. Tonight we're asking that you accept existing platted easements in the Magnolia Plantation subdivision. These easements were easements of record at the time annexation took place in early 2000s. The subdivision suffers from some localized flooding, and we feel that our maintenance abilities could improve that situation. Part of the problem has been that this property, this subdivision drains to the south. The property immediately to the south is undergoing development right now. They are dedicating an easement to us, and they have an obligation to clean out the drainage way across that property, which provides us with a unique opportunity to make some real difference for this particular neighborhood, and that's why we're asking that you accept these easements for us tonight. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions for Dave? Okay. What are the wishes of council in respect to the resolution? We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Rivenbark, second by Councilmember Andrews. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. That brings us to item R2, which is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Terrier Development LLC for gap financing for affordable workforce housing, utilizing $440,000 of HUD home funds. This time I'd like to recognize City Manager Mr. Caudle. Mr. Caudle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Rachel Lecoe, our Housing and Neighborhood Services Director, will overview this item.
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Council. This is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into the agreement. Last year, this development received $1 million in home funds to support the development of Sterling Reserve project on Carolina Beach Road. Due to increasing interest rates and lower pricing of tax credits, they are requesting additional $440,000 in gap financing to assist with the development. This project is 56 units of affordable housing for seniors with 55 plus. It goes from 30% AMI to 80% AMI. This is a loan that would be repaid, and again, the total amount will be $1.44 million with the additional investment. So, thank you.
Very good. Any questions for staff? What are the wishes of council in respect to the resolution? We have a motion approved by Councilmember Rivenbark, second by Councilmember Spears. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item passes unanimously. That brings us to item R3, which is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Landmark Asset Services Incorporated for partial loan forgiveness to preserve affordable housing. At this time, I'd like to recognize the city manager, Mr. Caudle. Mr. Caudle.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. Rachel Lecoe, our Housing and Neighborhood Services Director, will overview this item for us as well.
Thank you. Thank you again, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Council. This item is a little bit different. This is Landmark Asset Services requesting some loan forgiveness for a portion of their existing debt for James Walker Apartments. Specifically, they're asking for a $15,000 repair loan, the $174,000 acquisition loan, and all accrued interest on its rehabilitation loan to be forgiven. In exchange, they will pay off the $215,000 rehab principal and the $43,000 repair loan. These loans were from 1990 with a 40-year period of affordability that would ensure that low-income seniors would have an affordable place to live. As you can imagine, over the past 40 years, or not 40, quite 40 years, there has been some significant age wear and in need of substantial rehabilitation. By eliminating this debt with the forgiveness and the repayment, they will be having the opportunity to have a lower debt ratio for their application to the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency Low-Income Housing Tax Credit. And so that will help with that. Again, the project will remain affordable for seniors for an additional 30 years. So we'd be losing some of the affordability that we have of the timing, but we'd be gaining an extra 30 years. So we are recommending approval of this, as well as entering into a memorandum of understanding with the owners to ensure that we have the ability to go in and do property inspections, whatever we need to do just to ensure that the units are kept up. In addition, the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency will be doing annual inspections, as well as their equity investors will be doing periodic inspections. The owners and property managers are here if you have any specific questions for them on this forgiveness or the property in general.
Okay.
Thank you.
We have a question here, Mrs. Spears.
Rachel, can you repeat that last statement you made about the authority for us to do inspections, and repeat that for me, please?
Since we won't have any loans, we won't have the compliance that we would normally have when we're adding money to a project. Like the Sterling Reserve, we'll be going out and doing compliance visits every year for programmatic as well as the financial and physical inspections of the property. We like to see that when we're putting money in. So even though we're taking money out, we still want to show that we have an investment in the property. And so rather than having to go through our normal code enforcement, getting a warrant, all of those things, we want to have the ability to go in and do periodic inspections if we get any calls, whatever it may be, just to maintain a good relationship.
So when that takes place, if that was to take place, who are we sending? Are we sending code enforcement to do these inspections, or periodic?
So on our housing projects, we have our housing rehab techs, which is what's in the budget for an additional person. They're the ones who are able to go. They're looking for the same type of minimum housing code that the code enforcement are looking for, but it's not coming from that. If it triggers, if there's an issue, that's when it would be triggered into that code enforcement. So it's not looking if there's something specific. It's more just to maintain that the structure is in good shape.
I need you to put that in bold.
Okay.
Yeah, that needs to be emboldened. Mm-hmm. And I'll have a question for them when they come up, because I don't know how many times in the past, I've been on council for 4 years now, but I've received multiple calls about James A. Walker Apartments and the elevator and the reluctance of somebody to respond. And it's a senior living place, senior apartments where you have seniors, but you also have seniors who have some type of disabilities. And so I'm not the only one who's heard this. We've heard it where the elevator doesn't work and people's loved ones are concerned about their safety. And so I want to make sure that that's addressed. And it's not something that I don't want lip service on it. I want to make sure that it's addressed and safety mechanisms are in place, because there was, 2 years ago when there was a fire there? And I mean, so I was joking earlier. Well, I wasn't really joking when I said security is paramount, but safety is paramount for me, especially in this community. So, thank you.
Waddell?
Yep, Ms. Lacote, this is probably just for my edification, but so the funds that we would be that we're being asked to forgive, that's not HUD home funds. This would just be was this pre the HUD home program, or
No, it is older than you think. I'd have to check what the source. Our deeds that we put out in the 90s were a little bit different than how we have it now, so I don't think that it said the source of funding. These loans were actually intended to be forgiven if they met all of the affordability, so it wasn't something that we were expecting to get back. So we will be getting a portion back, but I'd have to check what the source would be.
Okay.
But I assume it would be federal funds, but we'll check.
All right, thank you.
But Rachel, this gives us the opportunity as a city, as opposed to the past, where we can go in there and do the regular inspections, where we didn't have that authority before, unless it was a housing inspection violation, where I know you have minimum housing codes and you have the county, housing, or their inspectors be able to come through there, fire can go through there. But this also gives us an added layer of authority or regulation where we can walk in as a city to investigate any kind of comments that we get as council members, as Kevin alluded to, with some of the issues that we've seen there in the past.
Yes, it would definitely give us a better ability to have those inspections. Anytime, like I said, like the Sterling Reserve, that one is going to be part of the contract that we write with them, that we'll be doing annual inspections. And so when we're using the federal funds, that is part of the requirement, part of the compliance. So this would be just something that we would want to do as a memorandum of understanding, since we won't have a deed with the project. So yes, it would give us that additional authority.
Okay, go ahead, John.
But the MOU is what gives us the, okay, thank you.
And so let me get this. So the management company that currently, or the company that owns it, is it the same as the management company that's managing it, or is it two separate entities, a management company and then the owners of the property may be somebody else, or is it the same?
If we can ask them that question, if you don't mind, because there
Please.
have been some changes in recent years.
Please come forward. Mr. Wilder, did you have any questions also, since Rachel's here? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Sam Sarah. I'm Vice President of Landmark Asset Services.
I'm John Stiltner. I am Director of Development for Landmark Asset Services.
So your question was, is the company...
You can raise the microphone, it's adjustable.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Your question was, is the management company the same as the owner? It is now, yes, sir. We resumed our own in-house management on October 1st due to some complaints we heard. As well.
So you had a separate management company other than your company that was actually managing the property for a number of years?
Yes, sir.
Did you, Kevin has heard it, I've heard it, and others I'm sure have heard it. Over the years, we heard complaints about the elevator, we've heard about conditions of the property. Were y'all ever notified, or was your company ever notified of these complaints, or did they fall on deaf ears, or nobody shared those complaints with you folks over time?
So there were multiple issues. We certainly were aware of the tenant-caused fire, which was very unfortunate. When we resumed management on October 1st, it was that week or the following that the code enforcer sent us a letter, which of course we certainly were aware of, and we have been working with Brian, and I believe we've shown good faith with him. But there have been multiple incidents. I believe the fire was a year and a half ago, maybe a little longer. And the elevator is what we've been working on extensively since October 1st. And in our rehab, we intend to modernize it, which is very close to a replacement, and John can explain that better, understanding the engineering. But our intent is to do a substantial rehab totaling $6.5 million that will replace the roof, replace the fire panel, add a sprinkler system. It does not currently have a sprinkler system. Trying to think, rebuild all the windows, do approximately $70,000 worth of work to the units themselves. So our intent is kind of twofold. In the short term, we're going to remediate all the issues, and in the long term, we've structured it in a way that has much less debt so that it can support itself for the long period.
So you're going to put $6 million into this building, which is, obviously it's a very old building. It used to be the nurses' quarters for James Walker Hospital, the old hospital there. By doing all that work, which is pretty substantial, how are we going to work with the tenants there to be able to, you're replacing windows, you're doing the replacement of the roof. there's a lot of work there. Are you going to temporarily move some people out, or are you going to work around them? How is that going to happen?
So Mayor, City Council, we in our rehab for this project, We will be using a company out of Greensboro that we've worked with on several projects, several historic schools, and in-place rehabs of existing units, and this will be an in-place rehab. We plan to keep some of our units vacant for when we close on the property to start the construction, and we will do those 6 to 7 units first, and we will move residents from their homes into new units, and then we'll do the next 7.
Okay.
The next 7. We do not plan on displacing any tenants, and all tenants will qualify to be back in the building.
So when are you talking about starting this construction?
So with North Carolina Housing Finance and 9% tax credit application, awards will be announced in August. Excuse me. And then we will go out and work to gain syndication to sell the tax credits, both the 9% low-income housing tax credit as well as the state and federal historic tax credits. And also work with, we've got several lenders that we work with on construction loans. So we will go out and gain all of our debt and equity and financing, go through our A&E engineering, go through our plan reviews, and then get bids from subcontractors, second GC. We have the one we pick we want to use, but we all, in all fairness to everybody in tax money, we do get second bids to ensure that we're getting the best value for the dollar.
So you haven't received the bid as of yet?
We have preliminary numbers for the tax credit application that's due this Friday at noon, and it's all in, as Sam was saying, it's about 80, it's almost 80,000 a unit on the units themselves. Again, history of the property, Rachel did a really good job. Dwayne Anderson, the founder of Landmark Asset Services over 40 years ago, and this is his grandson. So we're going into a third-generation family-owned business, came to the city of Wilmington to not only work on much-needed housing for the community and the most at-risk demographic, which is low-income seniors, but to also preserve the James A. Walker nursing school. I believe it was a dormitory for all the nurses that trained here. And that was in 1988, 89. We placed the project in service in 1991. So it has served the residents for 33 plus years. And it is aged, outdated. The elevator was installed in 1968. And so it's about $250,000 to replace it. And that is part of our scope, as Tim said, along with updating all the alarm systems throughout the building, adding a sprinkler system for life safety. The other things that we plan on working on in the building is accessibility. We're taking the ADA units and we're increasing the size of them by taking and moving some of our laundry rooms and stuff around in the building. So we'll be improving accessibility, improving exterior accessibility, and also improving and adding interior and exterior amenities, and also working for energy sustainability with our Energy Star programs and stuff as well.
So you don't have any problem with what you just shared with the council, putting that within the memorandum of understanding, the amount of money you're going to spend and where you're going to spend it?
Yes, and I believe we've also given our scope of work to the city as well.
Okay. And then when do you, I don't know if you've shared any of this information with the residents, but when do you intend to have a sit-down meeting with the residents to share with them the process?
Once we know that once they announce awards in August, it's about a 6 to 8 month process of going out and gaining the loans and the equity and all that in place. So we will start working with tenants and their families once we know for sure. 'Cause we don't want to upset anybody and get them worrying about something until we know that we've secured the tax credits.
Well, as soon as you do, I mean, I would like that in the memorandum of understanding, because if you don't talk to tenants, the tenants will create what they perceive, or they'll hear a rumor. You need to share that information and specifically spell out exactly how that process is going to work, because some of those elderly folks over there are very afraid of some of the issues that they've dealt with over the years, and they don't believe everything. So I really do ask you if you, and make sure that it's in that memorandum of understanding that you have a meeting with the residents.
Mayor,
And
we
just-
absolutely will.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Spears?
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. And you did a great job of asking some of those tougher questions, but because I'm telling you, this is, I don't want to beat you up too much, but it's kind of like running into the person that used to bully you when you were a child as an adult, and you end up being bigger than that person. And I'm telling you, some of the complaints that I've heard over the years is really troubling. And I'll be honest, I was absolutely leaning towards saying no to this because of that. Because, again, the communication was horrible. And I don't know if it was the management company or what, but I know that people were reaching out and could not get a hold of anybody. And that burden was falling on us as the elected officials in the city of Wilmington. And some people can't differentiate between who does what in this city as it relates to certain housing. And so, you know, I hope, well, I intend to make sure that we really hold your feet to the fire on this because of this and because of the history for those residents. And as the mayor said, it's really important to communicate with those residents, but also that they're able to reach you and able to get some return, you know, when they make a phone call, when they need repairs, when they have concerns, and that's been a huge problem.
Sir, Council Spears, we're back in control, in the driver's seat, and we were spending a lot of time there since we've got the management back over in October, going through the building, communicating. We got a great maintenance man on staff now that's there 5 days a week. Good site manager, our regionals are here working as well, and then we're also coming down, and you'll see me here for several years to come on the project and dealing with any issues or any warranty. And I would just say that this substantial rehab is a decade past due.
You might want to sue that management company that you they were horrible.
Mr. Rivenbark?
And if I may add, ultimately, we're the owners, so it's easy for us to say it was another management company, but we do take responsibility, and we want to step up and do the right thing and turn this from an eyesore into a benefit to the community and its residents. Thank you.
Mr. Rivenbark?
I'm in real estate business, and I've worked with tax credit deals over the years, and I know it's hard going to since you all are the owners, it's different, but it's hard going to an owner with a piece of property and asking him to remove his property from the market for 8 or 10 months while we wait on the Housing Finance to award the credits. So this project, what you've described tonight, it's a pretty picture. It sounds great. Is this all hinging on the tax credit award in August?
For the substantial rehabilitation of upwards of $7 million, yes.
Okay.
Which hinges on your support tonight. Also, North Carolina Housing and Finance has forgiven some of their loans on the property as well to put it in position so that it can be competitive and receive a tax credit award.
I'm absolutely positive that it certainly, as always, and still does meet all the criteria that they're looking for: bus lines, medical, shopping, what have you. And the fact that in what we're going to do here tonight, that's a positive for them to look at. But nonetheless, until they award those tax credits to you, you don't have them.
We do not have them,
Okay.
no, sir.
Thank you. I didn't know if you had an inside up there, or I wanted to find out what it was.
Well, North Carolina Housing and Finance's goal is to create affordable housing and to preserve affordable housing. James A. Walker is out of its 30-year compliance
Tax credit,
with it.
yeah.
So we are hoping that they see it favorably with Welcome Arms to bring this back into the program and help us oversee it and maintain it and take care of it. And so
It seems like a no-brainer, doesn't it?
that's what my grandfather would say.
Thank you.
Mr. Barnett?
I too got a number of calls, and I guess my question is, was there anything done to kind of satisfy the clients. I mean, they've been, let's call it bullied, or, you know, they've been seniors who were afraid to call because they don't know any place else to live. Was there any kind of, you don't have to pay rent for 2 months or anything given that would kind of let them know that you guys are up and up?
That's a really good question, and I apologize that I don't know the answer. What we did do is we've, I think, spent to date easily over $50,000 making sure the elevator works when we took back from the other company. We've met with the residents. We'll continue to meet with the residents. We have full-time on-site staff. But we generally do give concessions, like you mentioned, if the resident has been wronged in a way, and especially if it's our fault. So I apologize. I don't know the answer specifically for each tenant, but I will check on that. And thank you for calling attention
I'd like to
to
know
it.
that. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions? What are the wishes of council in respect to the item?
I do have one more question.
Yes, sir, Mr.
So if you were not to get this, the financing of the tax credit that you're applying for, would that negate what we're doing with the forgivable part?
Yes, this is contingent upon award of the tax credits and the CO, so nothing would be forgiven unless they were awarded and they get the CO.
Okay, thank you, Rachel.
So we have a motion on the floor by Councilman Rivenbark, second by Councilman Barnett. Any further discussion? All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. Thank you for your time. Get to work. Our next item and our last item is item R4, which is a resolution expressing support for full consideration of Wilmington as the future site of the North Carolina Submarine Museum, and this has been brought forward by Councilwoman Andrews, and I'm going to let her talk about it.
Council member, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have in our audience today Christopher Perrian, am I saying your name right? Who's the Executive Director of the North Carolina Submarine Museum Foundation, and also Mr. Jimmy Pierce of Kids Making It, who has been a local advocate for this. Would either of you like to come forward and say anything about this project?
Saving the best for last, thank you very much. It's a professional privilege and a personal honor to be here. Thank you for considering this. We've met individually, and I appreciate your advice and support along the way. The short of it is, just to put us all in the same places, our state of North Carolina is honored to have 3 nuclear-powered submarines named in its honor. The USS North Carolina, who just last week enjoyed her 15th anniversary being commissioned here. We have the USS Charlotte and the USS Asheville, and they're all doing good work. The North Carolina just returned from a 7-month patrol. The USS Charlotte and the USS Asheville are on patrol now. If you read the news, as we've learned this evening, there's a lot going on, and these boats are busy and their families are busy. In conjunction with that, our American Navy, like many industries and companies around the country, suffers a shortfall of skilled labor. Over the next 8 years, the Navy projects a skilled labor shortage of 100,000 people to build and to repair the nuclear-powered submarines already funded to be built and repaired. So indeed, this is a matter of skilled workforce fulfillment. It's a matter of national security. So our contention is, politely, we're not so sure the country needs another submarine museum. We have plenty of old boats in the water. But the notion is, let's take advantage of our heritage of 3 nuclear-powered submarines. Let's honor them as they go out of service. And in conjunction, let's create a STEM education resource center and a workforce development resource center. So visitors of all ages, all backgrounds, can understand through the metaphor of these American-built machines, designed, built, and operated by Americans, the real wonder of science, engineering, and mathematics. We can partner with the excellent Cape Fear Community College Network, the University of Wilmington, and really bring this sort of complex educational information at a level to people they can understand. And who better than Wilmington on the ocean with its heritage as a World War II city? Who understands the ocean better than Wilmington, where we can say we build submarines for this reason because they have to survive in this ocean? I think the partnership is meant to be, and I'm very grateful for your consideration.
Mr. Mayor, may I read the resolution?
Yes, please.
Whereas the North Carolina Submarine Museum Foundation has proposed the establishment of a museum in our state to inspire visitors in the wonder that is a nuclear-powered U.S. Navy submarine, and whereas the establishment of the NC Submarine Museum within the city of Wilmington would enhance educational opportunities for residents, young and old, promote tourism, and contribute to the economic development of the city, and whereas the City of Wilmington recognizes the importance of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, STEM education, and such a museum in Wilmington would promote understanding of the practical applications, principles, and tools that allow nuclear-powered submarines to operate quietly, safely, and reliably in the depths of all oceans covering our planet, and whereas defense is North Carolina's second largest industry, and the U.S. Navy forecasts a 10-year shortage of 100,000 skilled workers to build and maintain the already funded nuclear-powered submarines being developed, and whereas the NC Submarine Museum would contribute to the solution for the Navy's and the nation's long-term skilled workforce training need via its STEM education and Workforce Development Resource Center and workforce development programs, and whereas the North Carolina Submarine Museum would honor the men and women who served aboard the 3 U.S. Navy nuclear-powered submarines named in honor of our state of North Carolina, the USS Asheville, SSN 758, the USS Charlotte, SSN 766, and the USS North Carolina, SSN 777. Therefore, be it resolved that the Wilmington City Council expresses its support for designation of the City of Wilmington as the site for the future North Carolina Submarine Museum and STEM Center.
A motion?
Oh, and I would like to move that we accept this resolution.
We have a motion by Councilmember Andrews, second by Mayor Pro Tem Barnett. Any further discussion? All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. Congratulations. Thank you.
Matt, one last thing. Who said the Air Force and the Navy can't cooperate, Matt?
That's right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. This concludes our regular agenda. Are there any items to be brought forward by our city attorney?
Yes, sir. We've got 2 items for closed session for you. You've got that motion in front of you at the appropriate time.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor, earlier today, the North Carolina Department of Transportation made an announcement that they are going to be able to open the Cape Fear Memorial Bridge tomorrow night at 7 p.m., which is a tremendous accomplishment. In order to be able to do that, they had to move literally heaven and earth to make that happen. And I think Chad Kimes and his staff at NCDOT deserve all the credit with regard to being able to make that particular project happen. But I can't help but let it go, or I can't help let it go without at least acknowledging the work that our staff did with regard to the traffic tie-ups and the congestion that went on in the city. Councilman Waddell mentioned earlier one group, but I want to mention a couple of folks. First of all, our sanitation folks worked diligently to make sure that they could continue to pick it up, even though they couldn't do the same number of runs to the landfill every day. And so you probably heard some complaints about that, but we did what we could to make that happen. The fire department worked to find different routes to be able to respond to calls and did a great job. The police department has nothing but my gratitude, especially the motorcycle police officer who on one motorcycle had 3 trucks stopped at one time on 3rd Street. And then, of course, I want to acknowledge both our emergency management folks who did the coordination of that. And finally, a big shout out to our traffic engineer who worked diligently to make sure that all of the traffic signals were timed as best as could be expected. I know we all had to wait a little longer at traffic signals, or sometimes we were the beneficiary of a little longer sequence. But Dennis and his crowd did a great job in keeping an eye on that and keeping those signals and the traffic moving. So I just wanted to give a shout out to our staff and say thank you very much for the work that they did.
Thank you, sir. Agree. Madam Clerk, Mr. Joyner?
Yes, sir. I have some brief prepared remarks. So this week marks U.S. Teacher Appreciation Week. And although New Hanover County Public Schools and the New Hanover County Commissions have budgeting and oversight responsibility for our school system, I imagine that everybody in this room can think of a teacher who changed their lives, and I'm sure that most of us can think of multiple teachers who were important to us and changed our lives. So I wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you to all of the educators in our community. Thank you for pouring into our young people and into our students, investing in their future and in the future of our community. The profession of teaching is a very noble calling. It was fundamentally changed by the COVID pandemic, and it's a whole new ballgame nowadays. So to all of the educators in our area and beyond, thank you for what you do. In the same spirit of following a calling and pouring into a community, I want to take a moment to name, honor, and remember the law enforcement officers who were killed in the line of duty in Charlotte, North Carolina, 1 week ago on April 29th while attempting to serve felony warrants against an armed, violent felon. Investigator Sam Pelocci of the North Carolina Department of Adult Corrections, Investigator Alden Elliott of the North Carolina Department of Adult Corrections, Officer Joshua Iyer of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, and Deputy U.S. Marshal Thomas Weeks, Jr. Additionally, 4 other Charlotte-Mecklenburg police officers were injured in the shooting: Officer Chris Tolley, Officer Michael Giglio, Officer Jack Blowers, and Officer Justin Campbell. These 4 men who I just named survived the shooting and have thankfully been released from the hospital, but we know that their lives and the lives of that entire department and all who responded to the shooting that day will be forever changed. So thank you for allowing me to take a moment to acknowledge the heroism and sacrifices that law enforcement officers make every single day in service and devotion to the communities that they serve. And we have the opportunity to honor our fallen heroes at an annual Peace Officers Memorial Ceremony this Thursday, May 9th at 9 a.m. at the Wilmington Police Department headquarters, and I encourage everyone who is available to attend.
Thank you. Mr. Waddell? Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, just a couple quick things. Number one, we all know that this weekend is a Mother's Day, so we want to make sure we honor our mothers. And today, I had an opportunity to hear Michael Jordan speak, and he spoke at the Jordan Health Clinic, and he was standing there crying because his mother was right beside him, and he kept saying, I'm here because of all that she did. And so I think we just want to just remember that, and that was very fitting. Secondly, May is, of course, graduation month, and we honor all of the graduates. I want a special shout-out to my daughter-in-law, who got her degree in sustainability studies at the University of Penn State. So we watched her celebrate on this weekend. And then my daughter will be getting her master's, both don't got her master's, my daughter get her master's in fine arts from the University of Delaware. I had the opportunity to meet with President Biden, and I mentioned to him that my daughter is graduating from University of Delaware. It's where he attended. And she also told me to tell him to make sure that I talk to him about student loans. And so he said, yeah, tell my people that. So I want to shout out to Kara for doing such a splendid job with the president coming and all those things that happen. The last thing is just continue to love each other, guys. You know, a lot of pressure going on of being negative and all the stuff that's happening in our world. But love wins. Love wins. Trust me. Thank you.
Ms. Rumbar?
Yes, sir. Could we get an update sometime in the foreseeable future on the social districts? I've had a couple of calls regarding that, and it's kind of just percolating, I guess. And also an update on where we are with our new council chambers. And in regards to Mother's Day, if your mother's living, don't wait another day to call her and tell her you love her, because when you hadn't got them, you can't do that. So, thank you.
Ms. Andrews?
No, sir.
Spears?
Yes, sir. I got a laundry list this time. I think I skipped the last 2 times. We want to say happy birthday to to me. Not to me. Wait a minute. I want to say happy birthday to me, who happens to be the greatest campaign manager in the world. The only 6-year-old I know to win 2 successful municipal campaigns. My daughter, Elise, she turned 6. Happy birthday, baby. I love you. And I also want to give a huge shout out to city staff. The president was in town last week, and when I say this city staff and the Wilmington Police Department really showed out, you all showed out. And so I don't want that to be a foregone thought, to think that you're not appreciated for the work that you do. It was amazing. Thank you, Kara, and thank you, Chief Williams, for what your staff did as well. Also, last Friday there was the killing of 2 young black men in our community, and it seems that the violence is, I would use the words, creeping back in. And I would imagine some would say that the violence has never left. But I think some citizens of this community really need to be careful how you respond to that. No matter the circumstance of the individuals or the past of the individuals, 2 families lost 2 members of their family. And it's not fair to beat up on the dead, to defame or dename or demean people that are no longer here, because they do have families that represent them, and I think that's in poor taste. And we talk about how great this community is, but there are some people in this community who never miss an opportunity to talk down about people who live in a certain area or who are of a certain ethnicity. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it at all. So we should probably do a better job of how Mayor Pro Tem Barnett said it, how we show love in this community, and if it's actually love. So I just want to put that out there again, and it was great to meet the president. I'm kind of upset I missed Michael Jordan. That was two things on my bucket list I could have marked off. But Mr. Jordan, thank you so much for what you've done, and you owe me one now. I'm looking for you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Before we go into closed session, I just want to recognize that this is National Clerk Week, so I just wanted to recognize Penny and all the hard work that she does, and all the clerks from the city to the county, all over this country, all over this region, all over this state. They are the record keepers of all the votes, documents that we vote on, and so the citizens have access to those when they need them. So thank you for all your hard work, Penny. So with that, I'm going to ask, is there a motion to enter into a closed session pursuant to the provisions of North Carolina General Statute Section 143-3, 18.11, A and 6, and A and 3, in order for the City Council to, 1, discuss a personnel matter, and 2, to preserve the attorney-client privilege, and to provide the city attorney with direction regarding several matters, including the City of Wilmington versus Amerisource Bergen Drug Corporation, ETAL, file number 7, 18-CV-00081-FL. Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Reinbach, second by Councilmember Spears. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
That passes unanimously. We are now going to go into closed session. You'll give us some time. We'll have to clear out the room except for the council members and whoever the authorized folks that are going to be in this room with us.